Namaskar and welcome to the show, Sattology Debunking Mythology. You're hearing a lot of debunking since morning. And just now, we are going to have another show with a very famous friend and a good scholar, amazing scholar, I would say, who's done a tremendous research and he puts a lot of effort in working for this presentation. Now, in this show, we're going to see the world in a different view, that is, from the eyes of Sugriva. Sugriva was an associate of Bhagwan Ram, and he did everything possible to search for Sita. So we saw Sugriva's travel to the east from India, and which is where he went to the Andes. Then Sugriva's traveled to the south from India, where he went to Antarctica. And so now today we're going to go to the west with Sugriva. So without delay, let us welcome Sri Nilesh Oak.
Namaskar, Aditya ji, and I'm very happy to be with you again in our four-part series on Sugriva's Atlas.
Sugriva's Atlas. Yes. So the Atlas is a West Latin word, but uh, हम लोग बोलते हैं सुग्रीव की यात्रा. So the travels of Sugriv.
Yeah.
And through which we can see the description of this wonderful planet. So we can share the slides now and we can get started.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, very good. And in the past episodes, Aditya ji, you have mentioned, like many times you mentioned, and I'm glad you mentioned that Ram asked Sugriv, like, how come Sugriv knows so much about the world? And Sugriva then explains why he came to know about the world. I will briefly cover that today at the end of this with the references from Ramayana.
Correct.
Okay, so how Sugriva came to know about it. So let's begin with the sharing. All right. So here it is. Share. And okay.
So viewers who are watching this for the first time, so there are different versions of the world, and you'll be so surprised. Then this version from Ramayana is so accurate to the today's version, so that if somebody thinks that just the Western travelers discovered the world, that's definitely not true, because this information they had taken from somewhere else, and most probably these are the places from where they had taken reference. Otherwise, why would Europeans be so keen to find a new sea route to India if there was a land route existing? And land route, everybody knows, has far lesser risks.
Correct.
So see, the earlier travelers from India knew that the lands are interconnected, and so when you come from the North Pole to Americas, it's far more easier than going from the sea directly. So without wasting Nilesh's time, so let us say get started.
Right. So just to add to your points, say Mayan, the South American civilizations, Polynesian civilizations, and then there are many other names, Phoenicians, and that what you hear, Sumerians, of course, Indians, Chinese. They were all navigators. Okay, that's not people do. Many people don't know that. And to your point, yes. So Europe started building based on that, because even navigation was a very challenge for them before 500, or if you go, mostly they could do it by always in reference to the land. They cannot go away from the land where they have no reference. But then the technology developed. Okay, there was some preliminary, very primitive technology with them before. And definitely in last 500 years, very adventurous voyages were taken by Europeans, mostly driven by that spirit of discovery, which is not a very healthy spirit, frankly, because whatever they found, they claimed that it is their land, although it belongs to some other people. But they definitely made many discoveries. Discoveries is a bad word again, but they definitely mapped the world better. So there is some contribution, although it was not in the right spirit, but it did help us understand our geography better. To your point, that what Sugriva is describing, it's important for two reasons. First thing, Sugriva knew most of the geography of the earth as we know it today, which is amazing. And then to add to that, he also knows the geography as it existed 14,000 years ago. Because some parts, when he doesn't talk much about it, there is a reason why he doesn't talk much about it. Again, today we will see one good example of that, and also when we do the last episode in this series next time. So let's get to the west direction. In the west direction, Sugriva gives the leadership of that search party to a Vanara named as Sushena. Okay, and now there are actually multiple Sushen in this party, so we will not go into those details. I would encourage people to read Valmiki Ramayana, to look at it. One of the Sushen is his father-in-law, but there are multiple Sushen. Just like in India right now, we will find many Suresh and many Aditya and many Nilesh, or in America we will find many John, right? Something like that. So Sushena is a relatively common name. So Sushena is the leader of the West party, the party Vanara party going in the west direction. And how does Sugriva describes it? Again, remember, no matter which direction, Sugriva is always starting, approximately speaking, from the central India, like from Narmada, you can say. And then he's saying, okay, whether you're going in the east direction, south direction, west direction, north direction, he start describing somewhere from the central India. So here, from there, he's saying, and not everyone can read those, but Aditya ji, you can read the Saurashtran, Sah Balikan, Chandra Chitran, Tathaivacha. Okay, so he's starting from Saurashtra. Now remember, they are going from India as a center, going towards the west direction. So Saurashtra is modern day Gujarat. Okay, so that's what they are going, and he's describing certain types of plantations like a Ketaki, the plantation of Ketaki one.
And
Then
Balik is northwest of Saurashtra. Exactly.
right, right. And so that, yeah, so he's describing that. Then if you see the word here, after going through the forest, now remember, right now there are no forest here, but we are talking 14,000 years ago and there were forests. But after the forest, the mountains, now at some place he's referring to Marupraya, the desert. Okay, which is how far wide it was, we don't know, but the Rajasthan desert is very, very ancient. Okay, it might have grown bigger now, but it is always ancient. It is referring to that Marupraya. And of course they are going in the west direction, they are going to get more desert type of landscapes. Okay, so go through that. Now this is very interesting. Now it comes to 20, verse 20. It's saying, now then after that you will go to the land of Gandharvas, which is referring to Kandahar, Gandhar, Afghanistan, modern day Afghanistan. Okay, and very interesting advice that Sugriv gives. He says, when you go meet Gandharvas, that go through the area of Gandharvas, okay, be very cautious, be very careful. See, today also we see the free spirits of Afghanistan people, the Gandharvas. Okay, you cannot disturb them unnecessarily. They will just very free spirited people. But this is also true 14,000 years ago. That is my point. Okay, he says don't disturb them, don't go to their what you call gardens, don't try to take dates or fruits from their gardens, okay, without their permission. You will unnecessarily waste time, you will have to fight with them, and it can be a tough fight. So he's saying that. And so let's look at this. So the landscape we are going to look at is approximately the way I have shown in the map, starting with somewhere in central India through that Gujarat Saurashtra area. We are going to go through the southern portion of what is modern day Pakistan, which was always a part of Bharatvarsha, through Baluchistan, okay, Baluchistan, and then part of Iran, Afghanistan. And remember, they may go, the line is shown as one, but Sugriva is describing the areas around them. Okay, so it's not always in a perfect sequence. One more thing I will quickly add before going into the descriptions. Remember the landscape that is shown here. I don't know if you notice, one interesting thing that is not shown is, whereas the Black Sea is shown, which actually should not be shown. So in a way, the map is kind of not correct. But the Caspian Sea is here, where I am where I am moving my mouse. But right now it is not shown as a Caspian Sea. And that is correct, because that time the Caspian Sea was not exactly as a Caspian Sea. It was like a huge lake and whatnot. And Black Sea practically did not exist. Black Sea did not come into being until 6th millennium BCE. Okay, in fact, that is a strong evidence for flooding and destruction of Dwarka in the mid 6th millennium BCE.
Right.
But so I'm just saying the areas are sometime approximate, but still you will see how beautiful and how amazing it is. I just briefly described when he says you pass through the land of Gandharvas, modern day Afghanistan. Please ensure that you don't pick a fight with them. Okay, don't just go and take fruits or dates or from their gardens. Okay, they will not like it. Don't do that, he's saying. And now I want to we will look at the detailed mountains, but something else which is good to see on this picture is look at that line, that all the reddish, rock reddish part is referring to the mountains, referring to the mountain ranges. And that's amazing that what Sugriva is describing. He is going to describe one after another mountain ranges: Pariyatra, Vajra, Chakravan, Varaha, Megha. Another mountain range that Ramayana describes as like a 60,000. Now that could be exaggeration or whatever it is, but a mountain range, that's what it tells us. And then a Meru Savarni. We are not talking of the North Pole here, a specific Meru Savarni. And it ends with the mountain known as Astagiri. And based on the geographical descriptions and how far they are going, uh, I am asserting that that is referring to Alps. The Astagiri is a Alps mountain.
Actually, Alps mountain was a mountain of tapasya for Atari Rishi.
Hmm.
It's very well documented,
Hmm.
and he was of the white skin color.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's not that. So in any case, our culture is not dependent on the skin color. It's mostly
Right, but your
language.
description is very interesting. If he was described more as a fair person, let's say, that's very interesting, right?
Yeah.
In that case. And the verse that I highlighted here, this is basically saying, as you go, I'm taking you like the end point, and then we'll go through the details. But Paschimam Sandhyam Merum Uttama Parvatam. So here the Meru is slightly different than the North Pole. It is a Meru Savarni. Okay, and if we would have gone through the Ramayana descriptions, we would have found it. He says, beyond that, the sun sets, and Sugriva is very honest to admit that he says, I don't know beyond that. I have not gone beyond that. Okay. So that's what also he's saying. So go up to that point and then come back fast. Okay. Our time is limited. That's what he says. Okay. All right. And then that is what he's admitting below. He says, Etavat vanare shakyam gantum vanara pungava abhaskaram amaryadam na janim tatah param. Beyond this point, beyond the Alps, beyond the Astagiri, I don't know. Please don't go further, And he's saying as if like there is no sun beyond that. That's not exactly what he means, but he says, don't bother. It's darkness. Abhaskaram, amaryadam, unlimited area. I don't know that. Come back. So he's very honest also about the things that he doesn't know. That's very important point to realize. And why is that important, Aditya ji? Is because as your name suggests, Sattology, going after the truth, is that Ramayana is not mythology. When they didn't know something, they had no problem admitting they didn't know.
Exactly.
Okay, so that should give us the confidence when even a remote one Pushpak Viman they are talking, we should take their claim seriously.
Yes.
We don't have to blindly accept it, but we should take that claim seriously, because if something they did not know, they had no problem. They were not interested in faking things. They had no problem admitting they did not know. That's why I wanted to bring that point up. Okay,
So one
so
of the
that's the
lines over there.
Astamgiri.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
One line is Yojananam Sahasrani Dashatani Divak. So
Yes.
Yojananam Sahasrani means 8,000 Yojana.
Huh.
Am I right in saying that or no?
Yes, the Yojana, no, Yojananam Sahasrani meaning hundreds of Yojana. That's what it would say. And is there a
Thousands
word
of
Ashta?
Yojana. Yojananam Sahasrani Dasha Tani
So
Divakar.
then 10, then add it 10,000, right? 10,000. And Aditya ji, my point about these distances, even same thing comes for the Nala Setu, is this. And again, I'm not saying I know it. It is just my limited understanding of it. Just like Sugriva said, he doesn't know beyond that point. The limited understanding I have, based on my study of many years, of course, is that sometimes these distances are figurative in nature, meaning they're saying go a long distance. For example, somebody says, oh, how long is America from India? And we say thousands of miles, thousands of kilometers. And somebody say, oh, I don't know, 10,000 kilometers, 10,000 miles. It may not be exact, so that is a possibility, but of course they could be exact distance. And I mean, definitely a lot of research is needed. Okay. And there are some other measurements also, you'll see. One more thing I want to point out, we have not found it, by the way, but just like if you, Aditya ji, recall, and if our viewers can also recall, when we went in the east direction all the way to Peru, and on the west coast of Peru, we describe that trident-like structure, okay, engraved into the phosphate rock, and that is very nicely, beautifully described in Ramayana. Trishira kanchanos ketus talustasya mahatmana tapitah parvatasya agre virajati sa vedika. There was a structure. Now, fortunately, we could find it in Peru. There is a description of a similar structure in Ramayana, and it gives a specific location of it. Unfortunately, we have not found it to this day. And the reason I'm bringing it is, like, if you think like somebody has done the research, no, there is no point asking these people who are already doing the research. But this is something very exciting. So, for example, right now, those people who would be, say, living in northern Italy, Switzerland, Romania, uh, France, these people have a potential opportunity to discover something that is described in Valmiki Ramayana, assuming destructive forces have not destroyed it in last 14,000 years, or destroyed by the acts of God, what we call, right, because of the natural events. But this is another structure that is described in Valmiki Ramayana that we have not found, is in the western direction. And when the location comes, I'll tell you. It says Antara Merum Astamcha, between Meru Parvat. Again, this is a different Meru, not the North Pole, and Astaparvat, Astagiri, Astamcha Talo Dasha Shira Mahan. Now, in this case, instead of a 3 Shira, it is made out of like a 10 branches. Okay, and it says Jatarupa Mayasriman Bhajate Chitra Vedika. It is a very beautiful structure, something like this. And also, it has that Veda Bhumi, like a rectangle at the bottom. We have not found it. So, I just want to bring something as an opportunity, especially for people, the trekkers, people who are interested in the geology research, travel, especially in that area between Romania, Italy, Switzerland. Okay, something worthy of investigation. All right. With that, let's go through a quick summary. We are going to begin with India, the central India, let's say, and the land. I mean, I'm not going to bring the verses now. I showed you on the previous page. Here, the Marubhumi is mentioned, and I'm saying, okay, the Marubhumi exists. We know that. Then, this is Aditya ji, again, something you would love. So, you might know that we call Hindu Mahasagar, and then Bengal's Bay of Bengal is called Ganga Sagar. You might have heard that name.
Yes, yes.
And the western, I mean, Arabian Sea. In the modern days, like me growing up, I have also heard the alternate name of a Sindhu Sagar.
Hindu Sagar.
Okay, and I have suggested it can be called a Saraswati Sagar also, but it
Yes.
doesn't matter. What is interesting is Valmiki Ramayana is referring to the ocean on the western side of India as a Sindhu Sagar. There is a word Sindhu Sagara in Valmiki Ramayana. So my point is, the Arabian Sea that we are calling Arabian Sea, no problem there. That's perfectly fine. Was known as a Sindhu Sagar 14,000 years ago. Okay, very important, very interesting thing to know. Not many people may know it. After that, it says, once you cross that, once you go beyond that, you are going to come to Hemagiri. And just from a geographical description, we know this is the mountainous area of Baluchistan. Okay, that's Hemagiri. After that, it says you will come to Pariyatra mountain. And again, from the geographical description, this is where the descriptions of Gandhara, Gandharvas come. And therefore, I'm saying it is, it has to be in the Afghanistan area, assuming that's where the Gandharas were then. Okay, they could have a much wider area. So that's the Pariyatra mountain. Then beyond that, he says, as you keep on going, keep on searching for Sita. Very interesting, Aditya ji, that everywhere, even in the 4 direction, although Lanka is in the south, he's also mentioning that please look for Sita through the areas of Ravana, which we can infer that possibly Ravana, just like British, when British were ruling around the world, right? Just you go below India, the what you call Lakshadweep, then Malay, and you go further. What is that? Diego Garcia. There is a British base, a British military base there.
Correct.
Yeah, and the British bases are everywhere, the French military bases are everywhere, Americans have the same thing. You can absolutely imagine Ravana having military or some kind of bases all around the world. So
Uh,
they are going in the west direction, but he's saying there are look through the places of Ravana and look for Sita there.
Nilesh one important thing is there. The same names are there in Mahabharata also.
Yes.
Nakul goes to the west for Rajsuya Yagya, the tax collection. He
Hmm.
also crosses Himagiri, and
Hmm.
then and he goes via ocean right till Yavana Desh, Madhya Desh.
Okay.
So we'll discuss that later on.
But okay. Yeah. No, definitely, but that's a good one. And I'm going to bring one reference, fascinating reference. Actually, that I became aware of it in an indirect way because of what you told me. If we, I don't know if we discussed that on one of the shows or we discussed it offline. I don't remember. But one time when I was saying that Prague Jyotishpur, and I said, hey, best of my knowledge, the Prague Jyotishpur was only in the east, but in Ramayana I found one in the west. And you said, well, there is one in the west, Prague Jyotishpur we talk, whether offline or online. And Bhagadatta was from Prague Jyotishpur during the Mahabharata times. And I'm going to give you one wonderful evidence of that. It's phenomenal. And you were responsible for it in a positive way, of course. Okay. So I want to acknowledge your contribution because that triggered that thing in me. And I'll describe that in 2 minutes here. Actually go to Google or Google Earth, and just at the end of the Caspian Sea, like out from area of Iran, you can go towards Caspian Sea, and actually you can see along that Caspian border a whole mountain range, almost in a circular fashion. And granted, I'm not saying this is the only Chakravan Parvat. There can be many Chakravan Parvat. We know that there are many Chakravan Parvat, just like there are many Mahindra Parvat and many other Parvat. But so that is a very perfect description of it. Now, another one it says is a Varaha mountain. Okay, and I am saying based on again the sequential descriptions in Valmiki Ramayana, it is referring to the mountains of Turkey. Now, do you know what they call those mountains today? They call it Taurus Mountains, like a bull. Instead of a Varaha, now it changed to bull maybe. But these are the Taurus Mountains from where the Tigris and Euphrates, actually begin, and then they come down to the plains of Iraq. Okay, so Varaha Mountain. And here is that reference that I'm going to tell you. There is a description in Valmiki Ramayana going in that direction of a place called Prague Jyotishpur. Okay, so Prague Jyotishpur is important, and what I'm saying is that Prague Jyotishpur, again, is my claim, I can say, I mean, it's my conjecture, would refer to the land area of what is a modern day Baghdad. And I'll tell you why. Okay, now Prague Jyotishpur, as you know from the Mahabharata times, it is connected with a Bhagadatta. Bhagadatta fought in the Mahabharata war. He was from Prague Jyotishpur, and then we know that story. What is interesting is the Baghdad, like say Indians will say it as Baghdad.
Mm.
Americans will say that as Baghdad. Okay, Baghdad. Okay, that's how Americans are going to say. What is very interesting is to say how Iraqis say Baghdad. And you can go to online and try to see that. Do you know how they say? They say Baghdad, Bhagada, as if like the T in Bhagadatta is a silent, I'm just jokingly saying that. But they literally say like a Bhagadatta, if you have to say Bhagadatta, but not say the ta, then you will say Bhagada, Bhagada. That's how Iraqis will say it. And you can ask your Iraqi friends, by the way, how they say original, what we call Baghdad or Baghdad, So again, a possible memory of a Bhagadatta is connected with that place. Okay, I will move on, but very interesting that I found, and I would not have noticed it if you wouldn't have mentioned that there is a Prague Jyotishpur in the western direction also. Okay, and I think you told me the story of how it went to the east direction and so on. He settled there or something like that. You said, I forgot now. We will not go
He
there.
was paying taxes to Jarasandh.
Oh, okay. I remember. Now, I don't know if we did this online or that was an offline discussion,
Offline discussion.
offline discussion. Okay. But see, this is very relevant now, what is, how relevant it is. So even as we say, Purana is what is remembered. Okay. Shruti is what is heard. Ityasa is what happened. And Purana is what is remembered. But even that what is remembered is not to be discounted so casually and carelessly. It can come out very useful and very handy in trying to know the truth. Okay, all right, so let's move further. Now, there are a few other things, small things that it mentioned. I might have skipped those. But then it mentions this mountain or mountain range as a mega or megavanta. And the Valmiki Ramayana describes it as like a 60,000 peaks or something like this. This is what is their name? I think these are known as I have been there, Carpathian Mountains. These are the Carpathian mountain range in Romania. Okay, beautiful area, amazingly beautiful area. So this range, I mean, if you can see in the picture, Aditya ji, right from here, this whole range of mountains, that is these Carpathian mountains, I am saying that they were known as the Mega Mountain, Megavanta mountains from the description as like a multiple range. And then it talks of another mountain, Meru or Meru Savarni. For a while it keeps on saying Meru, but then it ends up saying Meru Savarni is doing tapasya there and so on. So the Meru has come from Meru Savarni there. What is interesting, I don't know if, yeah, I wrote it down, good. And then it says that 10 branch structure or 10 head structure, Dashashira Mahan, with a Veda at the bottom, which we have not found. It says that structure existed, at least it existed 14,000 years ago, between this Meru Savarni mountain range and the Astagiri, which I am saying is the Alps. Okay, is the Astagiri. Okay, now, so that's Astagiri. So that's actually, it described it. Now the question, Aditya ji, is why is he not so much talking about the land beyond? Okay, he says that is where end is. After that, it's a Amaryadam, Bhaskaram. It's dark, it's unlimited. I don't know much about it. Don't go there. After this point, quickly come back. Okay, the answer is to be found in the geography only if we look at the geography 14,000 years ago. Whereas right now we don't have to stop at the Alps. We can go further, to Germany and to beyond Switzerland, to France and England and Scotland and everywhere. This is how it looked. So this is the Alps here, by the way. This is the Alps, and this is how it looked. And this is just approximate picture. The what you call, the glaciers could be further down, but the point is there was no point going beyond this. It was actually not accessible region because all these glaciers had come all the way to the parts of, I mean, it has completely covered Norway, Sweden, completely covered UK, and they have come into the parts of Germany and France. Okay, it's extremely hostile place at that point. So that is the reason why he says stop there and come back. So his descriptions are not only tells us how well he knew the geography of the earth as we know today, but even his descriptions are contextual, which perfectly match for what the situation was on the ground 14,000 years ago, because we have that ice age, especially engulfing the northern Europe and of course the northern part of America. And that's why he doesn't talk much about northern part of America, but he talks a lot about the southern part of America, the southern America. Okay, so that's about it. This is quickly my book. If anyone wants to relate to what we are discussing today, that will be the book on the Ramayana, that 12,209 if you're in India. By the way, Aditya ji, in India right now still the COVID is everywhere. The combo package that Subbu is offering for 900 rupees, you can have all three books delivered to your house, your address in India, house or office address. It has to be in India. And of course, if you're outside, then your choice is through Amazon. Again, I'll just quickly repeat and I'll give it back to you, Aditya ji, which is to say, please, great response to our previous episodes with Aditya ji and myself. Please continue that, make the comments, do ask questions, but do know that many of the questions are answered on my blog. Okay, so do go to see if the answer is already there. Okay, so that we are not, I'm not answering that question twice. In fact, if I have answered on my blog, I will not bother answering on the YouTube. Okay, just to save my time. And these are other links. So I think that I, oh, one more thing quickly. Do you want to ask anything, Aditya ji? I was just simply going to explain how Sugriva knew that you already described, but quickly the verses. This is a painting from Cambodia, I think. Sugriva and Wali fighting. And when Ram asks Sugriv, Ram is totally impressed. He says, wow, you seems to know the whole earth practically. how did you know this? Just being in a Karnataka, being in a Hampi, Kishkinda, how do you know this? And he says, he tells the story how he had to run away from Wali and all that. We will not go into that story here. Maybe you can tell that story better after I go through this. He says, because of that, I had an opportunity to go around the world. Prithvi Mandalam, the circular nature, mandala, the circular nature of earth is known, by the way. This is again another very important thing. Prithvi Mandalam, Sarvam Guham Asmi Agata Tata. He has gone through all the caves and mountains and everything around the earth. Okay. So Mandala is known. And so he quickly, I'll just describe a little bit here. So he says, okay, so because Wali was after me, and I was fearful of Wali, I have gone in all direction. In the east direction, I went there through the mountains and caves and oceans and whatnot. Then I also did the same thing in the other direction. So in the south direction, I also did it. And then I did in the west direction all the way to the Asta mountain. And then of course I did it in the north direction, that we will look into the next episode. So Astam Chagiri Sattamam, so that is the Alps. Udayam Tatra Pashyami Parvatam, that is the Andes. Okay. And then he's in the next session, we will see he is describing the region all the way to the Uttara Samudra, which is the Arctic region. And I think that's my last slide. So with that, I'll stop sharing, Aditya ji, and back to you.
What a wonderful presentation. And I think, based on the text of Mahabharata and Ramayana and different Puran, it all matches up. Same names everywhere. So these names were current till 5,000 years back. All the name changes that have been done recently during the last 5,000 years ago has been, I always say the Abrahamic faiths are trying to find their identity. I mean, they are not yet found it because there's nothing in the scriptures.
Hmm.
They use the names from Vedic scriptures and then rename them. Like just now, Nala Setu, they started calling it Adam's Bridge
Right.
in 1800s.
Yeah.
And now the other people are claiming that history.
Or Sharada, places in Kashmir,
Kashmir.
like Sharada, whatever mountain, or some Shankaracharya's place, now they call Suleiman Mountain or something like that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And even I will add quickly one more thing to what you said, Aditya ji. Actually, you made a great point. In fact, I would dare say that some of the name changing that business has happened, as you said, to some of with Abrahamic tradition, has happened in last 2000 years.
Correct. Not
Because even when you go to the Greek records, they seem to have preserved the original names.
original names.
Okay. For example, the area of north of Afghanistan and the area north of Tibet and north of Tibet, that next time we will visit, by the way, when we go in the north direction. Okay, they have written the names as a Madhra Desh, as you mentioned, but also Uttara Madhra, which is
Uttarakhand.
Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and that area, Kazakhstan, which is like a Uttara Kuru. Xinjiang province of China is a Uttara Kuru.
Uttarakuru.
Huh?
That's
And
right.
even the names of the mountains, like there, I will show you next time, Mandhata mountain, way up there. Now Chinese have given a different name, that is perfectly fine. So they were written even by Greeks, that is number one. Or if you come to the south, they talk about a big island which more than likely was referring to Ravana's Lanka, which is different than Sri Lanka. Like Sri Lanka was a single dweep, but the name they gave was a Taproben.
Taproban.
And do you know where that comes from? Remember, there is a river Tamraparni there.
Tamraparni.
Yeah, so from the Taproben, and actually, we don't know how accurate, but in the old maps of the Greeks, if you see, the Taproben is shown very big, like a significant land,
Large land.
compared. Yeah, so the landscape is shown significant. So even up to almost close to 2000 years, or say 2500 years, the names had not changed.
Not change.
But suddenly now the whole, after that, suddenly they wanted to, I don't know what they wanted to do, but discovery, right? The whole sinister way of doing discovery. Many people don't know what the true meaning of discovery is.
Yeah.
The discovery is like a Christian person finds a land, and it was considered a Christian land just because he identified, he found it. Found meaning he identified for Europe. So it doesn't matter who were staying there, who was living there. It did not matter.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I think 1492 के बाद से बोल सकते हैं. So
हाँ.
even less than 2000 years, I think.
Correct.
It's very recent.
Correct.
Coming back to that Duryodhan, describing the Shadova river.
Acha.
Shadoba River is in Kyrgyzstan between
Huh.
the, they say, Meru and Mandarachal, because Meru
Hmm.
mountain is named many places on the planet Earth.
Yes. Yes.
And in fact, some people say Naimisharanya to be the center of the Earth,
Hmm.
but there are different versions of center of the Earth in different places.
Yeah.
So in that river is actually geographically is in Kyrgyzstan, which
Hmm.
is Uttar Kuru.
Hmm.
He specially says that it's in Uttar Kuru. But
Hmm.
anyway, very interesting discussion, and also the west part, which you accurately pointed out, the Prag Jyotishpur Bhagadat Maharaj Bhagadat,
Hmm.
and who was paying huge taxes. Yavano ke Raja, he was the Raja
Hmm.
of the Yavana,
Hmm.
and he was paying taxes to Jarasandh, which is
Yeah.
in Girivraj, which
Yeah.
is Rajgiri today in
Huh.
Bihar.
Bihar, right. So people sometimes when they see Yavana mentioned in Ramayana, sorry, or Mahabharata, Ramayana, I don't know if it's there, but so it's in Mahabharata, they immediately go haywire. Are Yavanas kaise aaya? If you read Mahabharata, if you read Ramayana, if you start making sense with the geography, with astronomy, with geology, rivers, there are no surprises here.
No surprises.
No surprises.
In fact, the
Everything starts
nature of
falling in place.
yeah, the nature of the mountains has not changed. The
Hmm.
position of the mountains and the lakes are constant.
Correct.
You can change a name, but you cannot change the because the Ramayana Mahabharata are so scientific.
Yeah.
They give you the like you're just reading shloka over there. You're telling
Hmm.
us
Hmm.
there the exact geographical construct is still there.
Yeah. Yes, and then because you had mentioned the Prag Jyotishpur in the west, and also the connection, of course, we know both of us know the Bhagadatta connection with Prag Jyotishpur
Yes.
and Mahabharata. And I forgot, but glad you reminded me of that connection. He was paying taxes to Jarasandha, and therefore he also came possibly and stayed in the eastern part.
Yes.
But what is interesting is so it stayed in my mind. So when I was doing this, preparing for this episode, but I was doing it for a Seattle team. I went there and I said, I want to know how Iraqis say Baghdad. And these days, thanks to the internet, there are many ways to do it. And I just kept on listening to it for 5 minutes. So I would say people to find it, how to say how they say it. Bagada, Bagada, Bagada. That's how they say it. I say okay, and jokingly I said just like French language, the T is silent. Bagadatta, the T is a silent. Then it's like perfect. Bagada.
And he's known as the king of the Yavana
Hmm.
in Mahabharata, very
Hmm.
prominently said,
Yeah.
because Krishna tells Yudhishthir that unless Jarasandh is subdued, you cannot win the world. And
Hmm.
Jarasandh, according to Krishna, is controlling 25% of the earth's land mass.
Hmm.
Not a small king of Magad.
Correct.
He was in Samrat before Yudhishthir.
Yeah. So just
And
like Ravana was controlling a huge portion,
yeah,
maybe small colonies somewhere, just like British and American have the bases.
yeah,
So Jarasandha, yeah, Jarasandha was the guy of Mahabharata times
yes.
before this. Absolutely, that's a great. And where do we get this information that Jarasandha was? We know he was a Chakravarti kind of person, right? Even Krishna,
Samrat.
Samrat
So Samrat through alliances, not direct
alliances.
Samrat.
Correct. Correct.
So,
Yeah.
but Yudhishthir was a Samrat through military victory. So, but this person was Samrat through alliances.
Very good. Yeah. And I think that's how even Ravana would be like that too, right? I mean, Ravana, see, in West, in the Bhogavati, we know that they had a truce there, I mean, basically, Nivanta Kavach he could not defeat, but others he take help of Nivanta Kavach to defeat others and become a Samrat. Like Ravana did that.
So we should do this episode another time with the Mahabharata references, where we
Sure.
can discuss what is a Samrat and how a Samrats are elected,
Hmm.
and what is the meaning of a Ratsu Yagya. People don't know. Ratsu Yagya is the most difficult yagya, and we should discuss that sometimes
Huh.
because
Well, I will ask you questions. You explain it. How about that? Okay. You
that's
can explain the Rajeshwa Yajna also. You can also explain the Ashwamedha Yajna, and I
yes.
will add a little bit that I know about both into it. But there we will make you the expert. I will interview you. What do you think of that?
I'm at your service.
Okay. Let's do that sometime once we go through this series.
Correct.
One time we'll do on the Rajeshriya, one time we will do on the Ashwamedh.
Ashwamedh.
These are very fascinating discussion.
Actually, the yagya part, yeah, people need to understand because yagya is the most misunderstood term.
Hmm.
People consider Agnihotra as the only
Hmm.
yagya, which is
Correct. Correct. Yeah,
demoniac.
because it has narrowed down the reduction in a reductionist fashion to that, right? The
Yeah,
yajna means like put a fire, do swaha, and
yeah,
that is a yajna. I mean, of course, that is a part of a bigger yajna, but yajna has a much bigger purpose. Just like itihas to history, the history is a very reductionist way of looking at
very,
itihas, right?
very,
Same
very.
thing, the original yajna has come down to Agnihotra, the small one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will definitely do that. I mean, we have, so viewers definitely keep on watching. Please give us very honest, very brutal feedback. Tell us some other subjects that possibly you would like me and Aditya ji to discuss, and we will prepare and we will come and share with you whatever little we know. And that's how we will learn together.
Thank you so much, all the viewers, for watching, and will cover. We'll, look for the next episode. Also, travel to the north. And if you've not watched the India to Andes, India to Antarctica, please do watch it. Today's title will be India to Alps and Astagiri. So you do watch that today also, today's session, and keep sharing and keep joining us. And we all welcome you to Sattology. We are all debunking mythology. Nilesh is an important part of our team. So please join back, watch this, and subscribe. Namaskar. Thank you.